Welcome to Behind the Model, a show diving into the virtual world and exploring its stories with the VTubers who lead the way. One of the joys of VTubing is being able to express your identity in any way you want. You can play up a character, or you can act authentically to yourself. But what if the identity you want to portray changes over time? Enter Hanako. Once a strawberry dragon, she has found new breath as a cloud dragon, even ditching her humanoid form for a more furry representation. In doing so, her outlook on VTubing and herself has changed for the better, and that's what we're here to discuss today. Hanako, welcome to Behind the Model.
Hello, thank you so much for having me on. It's really appreciated.
No, I've been following you for quite some time, even back in the Strawberry Dragon days, and so I've been very, very interested to chat to you about this little change that you've had and kind of how it's changed your perspective on VTubing. So I guess with that being said, we can just dive straight into the first question with kind of what inspired you to get started with VTubing with that first model?
All right, well, to begin off, when I first figured out VTubing, it was during the COVID era, and, I was home all the time. I wasn't doing anything because really couldn't go out much. So I was like, you know what? VTubing sounds pretty cool, and it's something that I can do from home without having to go outside much. So I'm like, you know what? Let's, let me just start, doing it. I kind of went on it on a whim, because as someone who's been in the art community as well, besides the furry community, I wanted to use one of my main personas, which was the strawberry dragon at the time, and I thought that she was really cool to use. So I was like, you know what? Let me just throw my persona out there and just, see how people like her, see like how I can, interact as her, and that's basically how it started.
And like you mentioned, like you were an artist. I remember you mentioning you were an artist for about quite some time before you were VTubing. How did that kind of
so.
Yeah. How did that kind of influence your designs when you were coming into VTubing? I guess did you have a few to pick from?
Yeah, I had a lot of OCs to pick from. For example, I have over 100 OCs that I've made personally. So you could say that I definitely had a plethora of designs to choose from because it's just been building up all this time.
Yeah, look, that's quite a few. But I guess when you've interacted in a community for so long and you've had this experience creating characters, your world kind of expands from there, right?
Yeah, exactly.
How do you kind of see all of those OC characters relating to you in your life or in the journeys that you've had? Do they have personal connections or are they kind of fantastical to you?
Some of them have personal connections, some of them don't. A lot of them that have personal connection have ties to me, may look like me based on IRL perspective, or some of my favorite hobbies, my favorite things to do, my favorite likes, including fandoms as well. I take inspiration from certain fandoms and create an OC based on that without taking it obviously, but just an inspired design. Same thing with my hobbies. For example, I like to swim a lot, so I have an OC who really likes to swim and her hair is water-based.
Oh, okay.
So, it really just depends on what I'm looking for.
So with that being said, what did the Strawberry Dragon kind of represent for you as a character and how it embodied yourself?
So I've been a big fan of dragons ever since I was little. My first kind of interaction with dragons was Spyro. I love the games and I love the character. So a part of that inspiration was from dragons, and I really love strawberries.
Hey, look. Good combo.
Exactly. I've never seen people use strawberry shortcake dragon, but I've never seen an actual strawberry dragon. So I was like, oh, this would be a really cool concept. So that's kind of the mix of the two, and also kind of based on my IRL personality and everything. I mean, when I VTube, I'm basically myself just as a virtual character, so nothing's really changed. Like as soon as I stop the stream and I close the camera, I'm literally the same freaking gremlin outside.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that and your IRL self and how it maybe changed the way that you saw VTubing.
Sure.
You mentioned that you were once you had the humanoid model in the strawberry dragon form, and now obviously we are watching you right now bouncing around your cloud dragon form that is not so humanoid. What does your kind of IRL background and kind of interactions in certain spaces have to do with that change?
So this kind of rolls back to when I first started VTubing. I didn't really see a lot of furry characters coming from, and as a person coming from the furry community, it was kind of like not disappointing, but just like weird to see, because I just came out from a totally different fandom, totally different community. So seeing just a lot of humanoid characters instead of furry characters was kind of like, oh, this is different. So basically, it felt weird at first to kind of go away from that, because I didn't feel like if I came into the fandom as a furry model, then I don't know how people would have thought of me. And that's why I kind of stuck with that. And it's kind of funny because I didn't expect to, get a larger audience than I do right at the moment. So when I still can't believe it till this day. And I still can't believe I have, the audience that I have today, who I'm super, super appreciative over, like best community ever. And then, the more that I was in the VTuber community, the more that I realized I don't want to be a humanoid character anymore, because I don't think it personally fits me or my energy. Like being this little gremlin, little cloud dragon form, I feel more like myself, and I feel like move super more energized, and I just feel like myself, and I feel like it matches my personality more than any of my other forms imaginable. So that's kind of where I put that change. And another big reason is because I wanted to stop fitting in with the crowd. Because I feel like fitting in kind of lame sometimes. So I was like, you know what? I might as well just not fit in. I don't want to fit in. I want to be genuinely myself. And you know what? That's the direction I took with them. And now I've been like much more happier. I've been having having better streams because I feel more like myself. So I feel more genuine on the camera than I ever have before.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, like, how empowering does it feel to be able to have this furry model on camera without necessarily the doubts that you maybe had like 2 years ago when you started out streaming?
So 2 years ago compared to now, I was totally feeling a different way. I was like, you know what? I don't think I should use my furry model like back then, or like a furry design, because I don't see anyone else doing it. And I was like, just kind of slide in, fit in. And then later on, I've met a lot of amazing content creators who actually aren't humanoid. Like, you have like other like dragons, you have other furries, you got dinosaurs, you got monsters. Like, the more I was in this community, the more I realized, wow, maybe I should be more myself, model-wise. So that's kind of where I took off after that. I've been planning this for a very long time. So when everything finally came back, I was so excited. I was so happy I could finally dive in and be myself more than ever before. I just made that change very quickly because I knew that I would be happier about it.
Yeah. And you mentioned that, when you were starting out in VTubing, it was a lot of humanoid models. You didn't see many furry VTubers. As you've kind of come along, do you still think that there is like a dearth of furry VTubers, like there's a lack of them in the space? Or is it just a recognition issue and it stays in its own little niche? Can you tell me a little bit about the community?
Oh, I feel like the furry community is huge. But I don't see that many furry VTubers as much as I do humanoid. I mean, now that I'm more into the furry community in the VTuber space, I see a lot more of furry VTubers, but I feel like there is still like a big dip in difference between the two. I feel like a lot of VTubers are mainly humanoid. And maybe that's just like the space that I see personally, but I really don't see as much furry VTubers as I do humanoid VTubers. Because the VTuber community has grown so much since like 2-3 years. Like, it's been such a huge difference. It's bigger than ever, as of right now, in my opinion. So, I expect to see more furry VTubers, but I don't really see as many. I mean, I do now, but I still think there is a big, difference between the two communities in the VTuber space.
Because you've been in the furry space for quite some time, both IRL and now in VTubing. Do you kind of see a difference between the two mediums almost, and like how the communities interact in those different spaces?
Oh yeah, 100%. They both are different, but they have a lot of similarities that kind of outweigh the differences, in my opinion. I mean, here, think about it like this. You know how furries wear fursuits outside and they have a persona online? You know, every VTuber is basically wearing a virtual fursuit.
Yeah.
That's how I see it. Because, you know, you're putting on a character, you might act like yourself, but you're putting on a whole different character, right? And I make this joke all the time, but I see some truth in it. I feel like VTubers are basically virtual furries.
Yeah. Makes sense.
I think that's, yeah, exactly. I think it's similar in that regard. Obviously, you know, furries can all like the same thing, but all not like the same thing at the same time. Like some furries like things, and you know, same thing with VTubers. You can make like little mini sub communities out of VTuber communities and out of furry communities. I feel like they're all the same, just except, you know, more virtual avatars than furries. Furries have virtual avatars, obviously, because, you know, they're also part of the VTuber space, but you see more VTubers online than you would IRL.
I want to add on to this a little bit in terms of like what drew you to the furry VTuber community, because you mentioned earlier that, you know, you kind of wanted just a better representation of yourself. You wanted like a community that more resonated with what you had experienced previously. And what kind of sparked that change to draw you in and commit to this side of the community, which is something you're very passionate about?
Well, you know, I've seen a whole bunch of furry VTubers recently, and, you know, I've been watching them more, and, you know, I feel more comfortable in their streams than a lot of other VTubers. Obviously, like, I'm really comfortable in my friends' streams. I just want to make that clear. I'm very, very comfortable in, like, friends' streams who aren't furries, but, you know, being a first-time chatter in a furry VTuber stream is kind of comforting and welcoming in a way, because I see the furry community as like a very, very comforting and welcoming place, no matter who you are. And that's always kind of been like that shtick. They're very welcoming community, and that's what I've always really appreciated about them, is that no matter who you are, no matter you know, what sexuality, what race, it doesn't matter. You know, you're welcome in that community. Obviously there's gonna be bad apples. There's bad apples in every community, but as long as you're not, you know, as long as you're not a bad person, and you're a good person, you know, welcome aboard. Basically, just welcome aboard.
Yeah.
And I feel more comfortable in those spaces because I am part of that community. So in a way, I just feel really happy to be there, and I find, you know, I find a lot of furry VTubers very entertaining.
So, with all this being considered, when you went through your rebrand into the Cloud Dragon, you did originally have it as a humanoid model, and then you actually went to the full, your current model now, the full furry model. What was there like a little bit of a toll and a little bit of apprehension in doing the rebrand? Like, were you concerned about your community not liking it?
Yes and no. I was worried about people not liking it, but then there's a side of me who doesn't care if people don't like it. Because it shouldn't matter what I look like, it's just the personality behind it. But I guess in the VTuber space, it makes sense for people to, you know, judge based on design alone. Which I think is a bit of a problem to me personally. I mean, I wish we wouldn't just like base off of, you know, model looks right away and kind of like look into the personality as well. But I feel like that's with every community. Like, don't look at just like the person straight up. Just look like, you know, look at the personality, if they do good things, bad things, etc. So that's where the no comes from. But I do get worried that sometimes my community won't like the design. When I became a you know, fluffy Cloud Dragon, you know, as you see me right now, I did get a lot of backlash because combining two different communities like that who don't really interact as much is a bit of a, you know, like, whoa, that's crazy. Why did you do that? I got hate DMs too, because I'm a furry alone. and I lost a lot of followers. I think I lost like over 100 followers or so because of him. But then, I realized I didn't really care because like people will stay for your personality. Those people didn't stay because of my personality. They liked the models. They liked the humanoid models more than now, and that was their only that was the only thing that was keeping them here, I suppose. So they up they up and left, and I'm okay with that. That's valid. They can feel however way they want to. And I'm never gonna tell people, hey, you can't do that. I am your streamer. I am your furry streamer. I would never do that. I wouldn't ever do that because that's people's opinions, and I respect everyone's opinion. If you don't like me, hey, that's cool. Have a nice day, I suppose.
Yeah.
Or have a day. So I'm not gonna judge people who don't like this model. But if you're gonna go in my DMs or like hate speech on my profile just because you don't like furries, then you are definitely part of the problem. There's no reason to hate a huge community because of bad apples, because that's how it basically is in the furry community. A lot of people hate the furry community because the bad apples. The bad apples are like the minority, but they're very loud. They're the very loud minority. So, that was an adventure that day, but I did a lot better from it. I'm doing a lot better now than I ever had before.
Yeah. How do you kind of deal with that as a content creator, going from a more open and I guess from a public and wider community standpoint, you could say maybe quote unquote more acceptable community versus a community which has historically in internet culture been quite ostracized, and I guess trying to break down the preconceptions some of your audience had?
So, before I came into the VTuber space, I never had the problem of like, hate messages because, oh, you are a furry, how dare you? I've never had that problem. Up until now, actually. Because I do still get hate messages to this day because I went from anime girl waifu to now fluffy small gremlin. And they don't like it because I'm openly a furry and I don't really care what other people think. I just care too much about what people think. And now thinking about it more, being in the VTuber space more, I realize why care about people who are constantly trying to dunk on you, hate you for literally no reason. Like they don't really know me. They're just hating me because they don't like the community that I'm in. And you don't have to like a community. You don't have to like a fandom. That's fine. That's perfect. You are valid to not enjoy a community. But if you're constantly harassing someone based on the community that they're in, that is wrong. That is absolutely wrong. You don't have to like it. You're valid for your feelings to not like it. But if you're gonna go and harass people because you don't like the community and you want to be like, you should not be in this community, or a lot worse words people say usually to furries, then you're not welcome in this space. You're not welcome in my DMs. You're not welcome anywhere near me. Please get out.
Yeah. I guess for you were in the furry community long before you were in the VTuber community. You were an artist before then as well. And I guess one can say, when you mentioned like the virtual fursuiting kind of way, that the VTubing space for furries is kind of like the ultimate online space where you can have this virtual fursona that moves around like you would basically in an IRL space. Looking back at all of that, how have you seen kind of the furry community evolve over the internet's course, really, and like the creativity that you've seen evolved with the VTubing space?
So, having models as a furry back then, you really didn't see it much at all, because I guess it wasn't like as as advanced as it is now. People bought fursuits, and they would, when you're making videos or when you're doing Twitch streams, you would, be in fursuit and, act as yourself or act as a character, really dependent on how your content revolves. And, PNGs were a thing back then too. So you'd have your PNG of a furry and, have some commentary over it. And, do that thing basically. But a lot of furry content creators on YouTube specifically are fursuiters. Now you know, more PNGs and more VTuber furries are, you know, roaming the YouTubes, but it's always kind of, when I saw it, it was mainly fursuiters content creators, and I thought that was super cool and super neat. But now in the VTuber space, the VTuber furry space kind of going hand in hand at this point. Because, you know, both virtual avatars now, you can get furry virtual avatars now. However, I wish more artists took furry commissions with VTuber models, because you've never seen it. A lot of VTuber artists, like what that, at least I've noticed personally, say, I will not draw furries. And I'm like, damn it! Why won't you draw me?
Yeah.
But now, you know, now that I'm in the community more, I've seen a lot more people do like furry VTuber avatars. Like this one's super cute, and I love it a lot.
Well, I guess, like, what do you like so much about being a furry VTuber? Just plain and simple.
I feel like sorry. At the end of the day, I feel more like myself. And that's kind of like the main reason why I changed, because I just feel happier, I feel better, I just feel like more me, basically. That's what drew me in the most.
And I guess, like, is there anything that, like, your furry model can do or represent you more that, like, you maybe couldn't do as, like, a humanoid model?
I can look more gremlin. That's just my energy. That's just the way I am. I'm very, like, loud, very chaotic, sometimes loud and obnoxious. I feel like this represents me a lot more because, you know, I can do silly faces sometimes. I'm like a lot more wiggly. Like you see my tail, it's feeling like crazy.
Yeah. It's been bouncing around all day.
Yeah. So that's kind of, you know, with all that in mind, I just feel more spontaneous.
Yeah. I mean, you know, it's like a more expressive way, I guess, for you to, like,
exactly
interact. It's just a bit more boisterous, a bit more of everything that you were as a humanoid VTuber, but it's just a little bit more.
Exactly.
I guess, like, looking on to the future from here, like, how do you see yourself now as, like, a content creator and as a person? Do you see yourself as, like, a furry first, a VTuber first, or something else?
Definitely furry first, because that was the first community I've ever been in. So that's the community I'm going to continue representing the most out of any community, in my opinion. Yeah, I'm a VTuber, but I'm like furry first and foremost, because that's the community I grew up with, and that's the community I'm still in, and that's who I want to represent more as myself.
How does that kind of change the way you approach your content creation?
I mean, my flow of content creation is like, oh, I'll just do whatever I want. I don't have like an actual, like, you know, oh, I'm gonna do this day, I'm gonna do this that day. I'm like, what do I want to do today? I don't know, we'll figure it out sometime. So to be fair, it hasn't really changed much, but I kind of want to explore different things, like different games, different spaces. Like I want to do more VR chat streams now, because I have VR chat models too to do that kind of stuff. And you know, I want to do more IRL creation as well, because, you know, a lot of furry VTubers do IRL creation, or like furries in general. So that's something I definitely want to explore more than just virtual.
Would you get a fursuit of your current design?
Absolutely, I would. Absolutely, tootly. I would 100%.
And then so maybe we'll get a Hanako cosplay at a con soon enough. Either a furry one or a VTuber one, who knows? Whenever we can get around to it.
Yes, I will be the official small gremlin fluffy dragon IRL. Get ready for me, conventions. I'm coming after you.
Looking back on your journey to here so far, it's your 2-year anniversary for VTubing. How do you do you look back fondly at all the memories that you made with all the models that you've had so far? And do you kind of see yourself maybe even changing forms once again if you find an identity that better suits?
Oh yeah, 100%. I feel like VTubing is very experimental. on its own, because you go through these designs and you're thinking maybe this isn't like really not like me, and VTubing is a journey. VTubing is a journey and a half, and you'll explore, and you'll realize certain things about yourself that you like, you'll find things that you dislike, you'll change things. Right now I feel most comfortable, but if hypothetically I did see something that was like more suited to me that I hadn't seen like before, then yeah, I will change, because I don't want to feel uncomfortable in my own skin, or like my own fluff.
Yeah.
So if I do need to change to make myself more comfortable, yeah, 100% I will. And I know some people dislike a lot of rebrand changes, and I can understand why. But if you're happy at the end of the day and you feel more comfortable in that form, then I don't see any harm being done.
Yeah, and speaking of rebrands, we've actually seen quite a few go through recently with some big creators doing rebrands. Some are just like new model redesigns, but some of them are entirely new lore packages and all that. Do you think that maybe we're at the stage of like the VTubing medium's life cycle, that people are starting to branch out and better represent themselves, and maybe let go to some of those older designs that were easy to have once upon a time, but now maybe don't represent what they want to do in the future?
Oh, yeah, I think that's super cool, because not a lot of VTubers would rebrand, or were afraid of rebranding, because they probably would have a difficult time finding the same person. But as long as you go through it slowly, and you kind of like tell your community like, hey, this is gonna happen, like I don't think it's a bad process. But it's really cool to see bigger VTubers finally do like a little rebrands for themselves to feel more like them. And it's super cool, because as someone who's went through a few rebrands myself, I'm really happy that people are doing this and taking this step in their own direction, in their own right direction, and I'm just super proud of them.
I guess, like, what would you have as like a final word of advice to anyone who's in the VTubing space, maybe not 100% satisfied with their persona right now, and is looking towards a rebrand, whether it be a total rebrand or just a slight change?
At the end of the day, you just have to be yourself. As long as you're true to yourself and you're happy with who you are as a person, or as a fluff, then go for it. I don't see why not. Don't do what I do and try to fit in with the crowd, because that kind of not really messed me up per se, but it confused me throughout my VTuber journey, being like, why don't I feel like myself? Why do I feel like there's something missing? Just go straight in with what you feel is right. Don't hide yourself. You don't have to hide yourself for anyone. If you want to be a furry, frick frackin' yeah, do it. If you just want to be a humanoid, do that. If you want to be, I've seen a cup of coffee as a VTuber. You want to be a cup of coffee? Do that. That's freaking awesome. And I love coffee. That's so valid.
I am the living embodiment of a cup of coffee right now.
Yeah. So if you can literally be an inanimate object. I've seen a freaking chicken nugget VTuber, okay? I've seen a chicken nugget VTuber, and God, it makes me hungry. But just be yourself. At the end of the day, that's my big word of advice. Be yourself. Be genuine to you, and you don't have to hide yourself for others, because people should like you for you.
Well, Hanako, thank you so much for sharing your story on Behind the Model. It's been wonderful to get a little insight on your journey through VTubing and rebranding and all that kind of stuff, and I'm sure many of the listeners would appreciate it as well.
I'm very happy to be on here. Thank you so much for inviting me again. This has been very fun, and I'm sorry if I got a little too crazy, a little too chaotic, but that's just me.
That's what we signed up for. That's what we signed up for.
I'm very happy to be here. This was super fun.
I'm glad. Alrighty. Thank you so much, Hanako.
Thank you.
Hanako is the latest guest on my new series, Behind the Model, diving into the stars who make VTubing the creative medium we love. If you're interested in more of Hanako's story, you can read the accompanying article linked in the description. You can also find all of Hanako's social media channels below. Until next time, thank you.